Hi everybody, this is Alan Biermacher from Digital Drafting Systems, Customer Success Manager, and welcome to our Enscape 3.0 Real-Time Revit Rendering webinar. We're very excited today to be taking a look at the new changes in Enscape 3.0. And we did actually want to go ahead and start with a quick question for you, a poll question. How many of you guys currently use Enscape? So I'm going to go ahead and launch that now. Go ahead and vote. Okay, we'll give that another couple seconds here. All right. We'll go ahead and close that now. All right. And actually, let's go ahead and jump over to that next slide to go over some logistics.
Yep, I got it.
All right, so just some logistics for everybody to keep in mind. All attendee lines will be muted throughout this presentation, but please do go ahead and send us questions via the chat box throughout the presentation. And this webcast will be recorded, and any questions that you may run into, later on, please give us a call, 305-445-6480, or shoot us an email at info@ddscad.com. And without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Daniel and Josh from the Enscape team.
Yeah, thanks, Alan. It's nice to be here, everyone. My name is Dan Monahan, and I'm the business leader for Enscape here in the Americas. And with me, I have Josh Radel. Josh is on our customer support team and training team, and he'll be leading today's PowerPoint presentation and demonstration into the software. So we're very excited to be here with you today. Before we get into the presentation, I just wanted to share with you some new learning resources to help you get up and running in 3.0. The first, we have, if you have any questions about 3.0, please check out our new knowledge base. With a simple keyword search, you can quickly find great answers to all of your Enscape questions. So the knowledge base is a really good resource for new and existing customers. To stay in the know, please, I would encourage everyone to subscribe to our blog. There you'll find a lot of tips and tricks, in addition to some new upcoming webinars that we'll be hosting. So if you're not subscribed to the blog, please do that. And lastly, we're working on producing new on-demand video training content, and you'll find this new content on our YouTube channel. If you just go to our YouTube channel, just Google Enscape and YouTube, you'll find our channel and you'll find the new learning resources there. These are really excellent resources that we're introducing with 3.0, and we encourage you to check them all out. New look, new phase. So one of the things you'll notice about Enscape 3.0 is our new look. If you've been to our website or if you've been to social media sites, you've already experienced the new branding. Enscape 3.0 represents really not only an evolution of our product, Josh will talk a little bit in just a second, but it also is really a reflection on a commitment to our users. And the new look represents not only kind of this a new aesthetic, but it really reflects Enscape's successful journey from a fast-growing startup to really the leading real-time rendering technology that supports today's building design and construction process. With Enscape 3.0, our focus is really on improving the user experience and making real-time rendering in VR easier and more accessible. And those improvements extend to everything we do, from our website to your interactions with our support team, and then of course, our product. It's also reflected in our mission. Our new mission is to unleash the creativity of the builders of tomorrow through continuous innovation in accessible design technology. And for us, accessibility is really at the core of the rebrand, and is really what makes up our DNA. Today, in many firms, visualization is really relegated to specialists using specialty software. And our goal is to really democratize rendering and visualization, to make it easy and accessible to everyone on the design and construction teams so that they can improve their parts of the design process. And then this leads into our new vision, to make the built environment tangible before it exists. And This may be a bit of a tall order, admittedly, but it's something that we always are trying to pursue. Buildings are getting more and more complex, schedules are getting shorter, and I think everyone here can recognize that. And we recognize the challenges that this puts on the entire design and delivery team and on the communities in which we build in and build for. We really want to bring as holistic of an understanding as possible to the design so we can understand all aspects of it before we commit to building it and making it a permanent contribution to our environment. Now, Josh is going to take you through all of the new features in 3.0, but I want to highlight some of my favorite improvements and kind of see how these strategies are playing into the new features and how we think about them as we start to build out our product roadmap. First is the evolution of Enscape's design environment and interface. This is something we've wanted to do for a very long time, and it's something that our community has been asking for us for a long time. Like our rebrand, the new interface in Enscape 3.0 is more about just new looks and aesthetics, but it's really about improving the Enscape experience. We started this project really with a focus on the end user, really trying to understand how you're using and working with Enscape today. We did this at a very high level by looking at customer usage data, and also at a lower level with direct interactions and engagements with customers, listening to what users were telling us and posting on our support forums, and also the questions that they were asking on our support team. A lot of consideration was given to the workflows and how we could streamline tasks to make them easier and faster in Enscape 3.0. One example you'll see is we moved many of the controls from the modeling or CAD environment to the Enscape windows, so you can use Enscape in a full screen mode as much as possible and really limit the switching back and forth between the CAD program and Enscape, which is a really refreshing experience. The new interface is a really big step forward, but more importantly, it lies a foundation for really some exciting new improvements to come. Second new feature that I really appreciate are the new localized assets. We have designers using Enscape all over the world, and providing the right assets lets them contextualize their designs and allows them to tell their stories in ways that is appropriate for the building's location. In 3.0, you'll find over 333 new assets, really focusing on regional flares like the well-known yellow New York City taxi cab or the famous red London phone box, as well as assets that are very regional, like new trees and flowers and shrubs typical to various hardiness zones throughout the world. These assets are also been optimized really beyond what we thought was imaginable. Some of these assets are almost 40% smaller than some of the assets that are provided by our competition, with really no lack in fidelity or quality. And then last but not least is really one of my favorite new improvements, which is the website. And I know this isn't part of core the Enscape product, but the website is really our best way to communicate the benefits we offer and to engage with our community. The new site, if you haven't visited, is a fantastic resource for all of you out there, whether you're an existing Enscape user or if you've never seen it before. It's really a one-stop shop for all things Enscape. And going back to that point of accessibility, the new website makes learning about Enscape and keeping connected with us easier and more tangible. So those are a few of my favorite features in Enscape 3.0 and a little overview of the rebrand. And with that introduction, I'd like to turn the presentation over to Josh and ask Josh to demonstrate for us some of the new features in Enscape 3.0. Josh?
Thanks for that, Dan. All right, we'll start with the famous question. Can you see my screen?
Yes, I can see it.
Perfect. All right. Well, hello, everybody. Great to meet everybody. So what we're going to look at is Enscape 3.0 today. So for those that don't know what Enscape is, Dan just gave a really good overview of it. So it's a plugin for SketchUp, ArchiCAD, Rhino, Vectorworks, and obviously Revit here. So once you install it, it's going to sit on top of your ribbon up here generally right next to your add-ins tab. If you have more add-ins, obviously, it'll sit up here. Once you click the Enscape tab, this is how the new 3.0 is going to look. So for some existing users, you're going to first notice that some of the buttons are missing. Don't worry, we didn't take those features away. Those are now moved to the Enscape window. So we'll look at those in a second here. We tried to make this new 3.0 a more streamlined workflow and kind of reduce the amount of times you had to switch back and forth between the design application and Enscape to keep you guys working, make a more streamlined process. So for those that don't know on how to get a model from Revit into Enscape, it's still right here. You just simply have to hit the start button, and that's all you got to do to get it into Enscape. If you use any other program other than Revit, this button is only Revit specific, because when we take a render in Enscape, that will show up over in our renderings tab over here. Again, this one's specific to Revit. We have our assets library still here. It's the same exact thing. We'll dive into that more in a second. We still have our manage uploads. This is where we can still access our executables, or our web executables and our panoramas. We still have our place sound sources over here. The general settings tab is still over in the design application. This is where you could have access to all basically your general settings, things relating to performance on how Enscape's running. This is where you also have access to your license information. If you're using a fixed seat or a floating seat, this is where you'll have access to all that. And then if you do run into an issue, say you ran into a crash or you want to get a question answered, our feedback button right here, I was doing a quick test and I have it going to my coworker here, but generally this would come default to support@enscape3d.com. And do please make sure that you have this include log files checked. What that's going to do is if you experience a crash, that's going to send us these essentially log files that have all the information about your machine, kind of what graphics cards you have, what version you're running, what exactly you were doing in Revit and Enscape before the crash happened, and then it'll give us some information about what is related to that crash to help us better solve and get you the answer faster to get you guys back working. And also the About tab here, this is still here. This just tells you what version you're on, and this is where you could check out how to get the new version. Okay, so for those who don't know how to get into Enscape, I'm gonna hit the start button right here, and this is gonna pop up Enscape right here. So it's gonna take it from whatever view I was in and launch me right in this view here. So again, all I did was hit start to get in, and this is what it looks like. New with 3.0, we have this very nice helpful help menu right here. Previously, this was down here on the bottom, but now it's laid over here on the far right side. And I'll be honest, there's a couple features in here that I completely forgot about, two of them being the solar angle and solar rotation. This is essentially, if I hold down Shift and U+I, I can adjust the solar angle and I can adjust the solar rotation as well. This was a cool little feature that I completely forgot about, to be honest with you, until I saw it here. So we wanted to give everybody as much information as possible from the start about how to navigate around, how to change the time of day, just basically every little piece of information on how to keep working with Enscape. Another really useful piece of information is this Get Help button down here. So for those that don't know, our knowledge base is a very, very great way to go get information extremely quickly, just like Dan mentioned. So if you have any questions on like, hey, what are some best practices? It's all broken out here for you guys. Another very good place is, if you guys haven't already checked out our forum, I highly encourage it. It's a very, very great way to get a really good amount of knowledge and information. And it's a great way to get inspired too about what some of the other people that are using Enscape use, or what they're producing with it. And it's also broke out by application as well. So if you're using Revit and you have a Revit specific question, you can post it in here, or you can just do a quick search and you'll get an answer really quickly from either us or somebody else in the world that's using Enscape that may have ran into the same issue. So it's a great little community that we have going on here on the forum. So again, definitely check that out. Those are all accessible through here as well. Another really great feature is this home mode. This is context specific and tool specific. So whatever mode I am in, this is going to pull up the information about what this mode is doing. So again, if we're using a different mode, we kind of forgot what that mode was or what it did, or just have the collaboration, have that tab open, and whatever you click on, it will show all the information about that tool. So again, I can hide this, or I can hit H on my keypad and it'll turn back on. So first, we're just going to look at where all the buttons are. So home mode is essentially home mode, so it doesn't have anything on it. We still have the collaboration annotation feature. That's still going to function the same. It's just laid out in Enscape viewer now. For those that don't know what this collaborative annotation tool does, this is essentially where you can create issues. And so say right here, I'm just going to say add more trees. And then I'm going to say please, because I'm going to be nice about it. And I can hit create. And then if I move out of the way, I can see this little way marker right here. So again, it's still functioning the same. It's just inside the Enscape window now. And again, I can save these out as a BCF file. I can hit save on the project. So if I'm working on a local model, I can hit save, and these issues will stay with the project. I can also import or export these. So I can export these issues that I've created. I can pass those off to another user and he can load those in, and he can see all the issues I've created, and then he can go in here and adjust the state of those issues as well. For our users that are using BIM track, you do have the option to synchronize your issues with your BIM track project. So again, functionality is still the same like in previous. The button just moved over here. Our BIM mode is still the exact same as well. Previously, the only way to get to it was either by hitting B on your keyboard or right-clicking and then hit any one of these. The BIM information essentially is a great place to click on anything within the scene, within our model, and pull up the BIM information from our Revit project. So this is pulling all the information from our Revit properties about what this part or what this piece of geometry is. So again, that's all being pulled exactly from the properties panel. Put this back here. So again, functionality is still the same, just moved over to the viewer now. Our view management and our video editor received some major updates. We'll get to those in a second where we can dive a little bit deeper into them. Our take screenshot button, this is essentially where we can produce our renderings. So again, this moved over to the Enscape tab. Previously, it was back in the design application. We still have our take screenshot and batch rendering. Again, that's still the same. It's just over here now. Same thing for our 360 panoramas. We still have our mono and stereo panoramas. Again, those are just over here now, previously over in the design application. And things to keep in mind too, all this stuff I'm showing right here, it's still good for any of the other applications, SketchUp, ArchiCAD, Rhino, Vectorworks as well. So if you guys are using any of those, this is going to be the exact same thing. Same with our executable files. We still have access to our web and exe standalone files. For those that may not know what those are, how I'm flying around Enscape, rotating around, changing the time of day interactively here, we can package all this up and send that to a client. And they don't have to have Enscape or Revit installed on the machine. They just need a machine with a dedicated video card in there, and they can walk around this model exactly like we're doing here. So it's a great way to show your clients your model at any point in time. So over here on the right-hand side, we have our mini map feature. So this is another great way to navigate around. So I can make this bigger if I want. So anywhere I'm clicking in my model, it's going to take me over there. So that's a very good way to navigate around. So again, I can just close that. One other little thing I like, it was kind of a hidden feature in the other ones, but it's got its own button now, is this show safe frame. Why I like this feature is a lot of times when we were producing a rendering, you couldn't really see what the final context of the scene were going to look like until you finally hit render. And then sometimes it's like, well, it looks a little zoomed in. It wasn't exactly what I had it framed up in my shot. So previously I had to go back to the design application, click the visual settings tab, click the show save frame button, hit take render, and then it would give me a warning like, are you sure you want to do this? And then I could see what my context export crop regions were going to be, and then I could finally produce my rendering. So to fix that, we just we have a button that enabled it full. So what I mean by this is, if we're doing let's say we're doing a square rendering, or we need something that's a little bit more vertical. So if I hit 1080 by 1080, this crop region is going to adjust accordingly to whatever I have set up here. So now I can adjust my rendering and see exactly how my final output image is going to look without having to go back to the design application and tell Enscape, yes, I actually want to do what I'm telling you to do. So this is it's a faster way to get a final output of an image. So I'm just going to set this back to full HD for the moment here. And again, I can just uncheck this box, and now I go back to full screen mode. Another thing we have over here is the different perspective modes. This was just a little transparent icon that was over here. Now it's just moved up on top of the ribbon. So we have perspective mode still, we have 2-point perspective, and we also still have our orthographic modes. A cool little tooltip is the standard views still work in orthographic mode. So if I hit 8, 5, 2, 4, and 6, I can still go to the front, back, top, left, and right and get a really nice, almost like a diagrammatic look to it. Do keep in mind when you're in orthographic mode that your background will be completely white. So if you do have a custom background image in there, kind of like I have in my scene before I went into orthographic mode, it will just turn everything white. So if you run into that issue, just know it's Enscape functioning how it should, and that's how it's supposed to function. So I can go back to perspective mode here and see now I have my background image still in there. So let me just get a better shot here. Another thing is the navigation settings. We have walk mode versus fly mode. Again, this was just a little icon that was over here floating on the Enscape window. The difference between those two is fly mode. I can fly through anything in the scene, kind of like Superman. Faster way to navigate around. With walk mode, it's just going to simply make it look like I'm actually walking through the scene. So it's going to automatically set up colliders for everything in the scene. So I can't walk through walls or anything. I can't walk through furniture. I can only walk through things that are deemed a door in Revit. So I can still walk through those doors, but other than that, it's going to provide a more realistic look to it. We still have our virtual reality feature. This is simply, for those that don't know, Enscape is probably by far one of the fastest and easiest real-time rendering engines out there to get into VR. So if I had my VR head set up, all I would do is simply click this VR button, and now this window would be transformed to what I'm seeing through the VR headset. And this is still extremely powerful because I can have Enscape open on another window, I can have Revit open on another window, and whatever my client is seeing through the Enscape VR headset, I can make changes if they need to, and they'll instantly show in VR as well. So again, it's feature still there, it's just over in the Enscape viewer now. And we have our visual settings tab here, which is still the same. It just received an overhaul. We'll get into some of the extra little features in there in a second. The render window setting. So this is a new, these features were over in the general settings tab in previous versions. Now it just has its own separate tab. So this is where you can do more further customization of the Enscape window. This is where I like to tell people, this is where you can do more marketing with this. So this is where, like I talked about with those executable files, if you were going to pass this off to a customer, this is where you could set the icon of what the Enscape viewer looks like. So I could change it to my company's logo, or I could change it to their company's logo. I could change the title name now. So I call it test right now, but I can call it the name of the project. This loading screen, now you can actually get a preview of what it's going to look like. So what I mean by this is when you first start Enscape, this is what's showing. So it says Enscape logo and it says loading. Well, if you're passing this off to a customer, or if you want to set up company brand standards, you can completely change this and get a preview of what it's going to look like now. Before, I'd have to set the image, close Enscape, launch it again to see what it would look like. Now I can just do all that here. So if I do a really nice render that I'm really, really proud of, I can set that to be the first thing myself or the customer sees when they hit start. For the watermark, this is where, again, we can get some branding standards. And works best if you have a PNG. So this is where you can set up little watermarks, and we could scale this accordingly in, say, Photoshop or Paint. But this is where you could have a nice little watermark throughout your scene. So again, this was previously, all these features were still there in the previous versions, but now it just has its own setting over in the Enscape viewer. And we also have some different navigation settings over here. So if you feel the default navigation speeds are too fast or too slow, you can definitely adjust these as well. And then we have different for enable sound and devices. All right, so that's an overview of where all the buttons are and where they move to. So I know we talked about the view management, so let's look at that. So in previous versions, so I'm going to split screen this here quick. So in previous versions, there was a create 3D view button that was right over here. So that would essentially, because a lot of times when we're working in Revit, it might be kind of hard to find that right view or navigate around and get to that view just in Revit. So in Enscape, we could navigate to any spot of our model. Here, let me just navigate over here. I'm going to get this nice shot. So I'm going to open up the view management tab. So we still have all the views listed over here in Revit. Oh, click the asset library by mistake. We'll look at that one in a second here. Oh, it knows I'm doing a demo, so apologize about that. We'll get that back in a second here. Of course, it's April Fool's, so it had to happen, right? Like it wouldn't be April Fool's. All right, we'll get that back here real quick. So apologize about that, guys. All right, here we go. We'll launch Enscape again. So again, I'm just going to hit it from this 3D view here. We'll get it to start. And again, this splash screen is what I was talking about. So this again was completely customizable for anything that I would have put in the customization tab for that. So again, it's still not bad looking, but if I wanted to further impress a customer with that, then I can. All right, so we're back again. So over in our view management tab here. So here, again, let's get a nice shot here. So I'm going to hit create view. So I'm going to call this chair. I'm just going to call this the chair view. So once I hit create view, this is going to show over in our 3D views here, right over here. So again, I could double click that and I can see now it's a new view in Revit. This linked presets view. So this is something where in our visual settings tab here, let me just close that. So in our visual settings tab, this is where we're going to control everything about the overall look of the model. So this is where we have different render modes set up. So we can go to white mode, we can go to polystyro mode, or we can go to this light view. In light view mode, this is where changing the time of day is going to be showing you a good representation of where all your hotspots are in the model. So if I change the time of day, it's going to show, again, where all the hotspots are in the model just by holding down shift and right mouse click. So say with this chair shot, I just want to see everything in white mode. So now I can save these presets, but let's say I want to add in a background image here. We got the mountains in the background here. So again, I just want to see the model in white mode. I'm going to reset this to default quick because this is I'm going to just create a new default. So this is my default. So now all the scenes that aren't going to have custom presets set up, this is going to be the default one. I'm going to create a new preset, call it white mode. White mode. And now, since I'm in white mode here, I'm going to change this to white mode. And I'm going to, let's give it a cartoony look here. So I'm going to adjust all the outlines. And now I can go back over to our view management settings here, and I can go to this chair mode right here. I'm gonna hit this edit button. I'm gonna link that preset to that view. And for the views that I don't want a preset to happen to, I'm going to, let's say the section perspective, I want that to be my default. I'm gonna hit save. For the approach, I'm gonna do default as well. Let's make a new one for a light view. So in our light view here, I'm gonna go to light view, and I'm gonna link that to the solar analysis tab here. So now what I can do is for different presentations, I can sit here and toggle between all the different views. And what that is going to do is that's going to show me what settings and what is being taken from the Revit view are showing inside of here. So this is where we can really get a nice presentation going. So we can sit there and filter between all the different presets we have set up, and it's fully respecting everything that is in our visual settings tab here. So again, very powerful, very easy to set up. This was something that was not possible in well, it was possible in 2.9, but it took a couple extra steps because you could not flip between all these to see these interactively. It could only happen if you did a batch rendering. So now we can sit here and set up, again, different views, different shots. If we set up a company standard for, we know each shot we need it to look like this, we can export these different, we can import them, we can export them, we can pass them off to our team, and they can keep working on the same presets that we are as well. So again, in our visual settings tab, it's going to take everything that's in the image tab, our atmosphere tab. We do have the option still for different backgrounds. So we have the forest, we have the mountains. Here, let me get a better shot so we can see what all those look like. Towns, and so on. So these all come with Enscape still. So again, these are all going to be still in the image here. All right, so that's the view management tab. That's how we can sit here and create some custom views and link presets to those. Now let's look at the, okay, let me get back to my default view. All right, so now let's look at the video editor. So I'm gonna full screen this quick so we can get a bigger view of it. So here, I'm gonna get outside. So our video editor still functions the same. It just received a whole new UI overhaul. So previously, the only way to get into it was back in the design application to hit video editor, or you could hit K on your keyboard and then you would get into it. Now you have this option here as the video editor to get inside of it. So first off, what I'm going to do is I'm going to either hit K on my keyboard or I'm going to hit this plus button. So let's hit this plus button, and then I'm going to navigate over, and we'll say, I'll get a shot right here. I'm going to hit this plus button again. So if I move forward, I can see my camera path being drawn out here. So I can see what's going on here. Now, if I want, I can get into each one of those cameras. I can enable this show grid lines, and this will allow me to, it'll give me a 3x3x3. So now I can frame up my shot on how exactly I want it to look. I can hit update, and then I can hit this little button right here to exit the keyframe. I can hit uncheck show grids. Notice this total duration right here. So this is telling us 28 seconds is the total duration for my movie so far, which is fine, but I'm going to set it to, we'll say 30 seconds. It's a good number. I'm going to hit uncheck shaky cam. So now if I want, I can hit play on my keyboard, or I can hit play right here, and I can preview what my animation is going to look like. If I like how that's looking so far, I can hit escape and it'll stop that. But let's say I want to do something else, like right in the middle. So I can click just on the timeline and notice it added another keyframe. So now this keyframe is orange, so that means I'm working in that keyframe. So let's say I want to do something like this. Kind of just, again, remember, if you're in this keyframe, whatever camera movements you're making, that's where it's going to put that camera right there. So I can hit update. Again, I can hit exit. And now I can see the adjustment to my camera path that's occurring. Something else that's really helpful is we have this new timeliner down here. So now we can sit here and key the time of day. So let's say I want my animation to start at, we'll say 8:30 in the morning. I'm gonna check the time of day, I'm gonna hit update, and then we'll say I want it to be, we'll say it's gonna be 12 o'clock, I'm gonna hit update, and then I'll go to my final keyframe here, and we'll say this is gonna be a nighttime scene. Yeah, so we'll say 6:30 p.m. Now hit update. And you can see what's being added or edited down here on our timeline. So visually a lot easier to see what's going on. Again, now I can hit play on my keyboard to see. Now I have this really nice time lapse going. My camera is doing a nice pan up. We'll let that play for a second here. Again, do note too, we also have the option down here to key the focal length. So we could really get creative and do some nice subtle focal point adjustments, field of view adjustments as well. So we can really get creative with our animations here. If I like how my animation looked, I'm really, really happy with it, I can hit this button down here called export. Previously, it would only show me, I would have to set this up in the visual settings tab before that. So over in the output tab previously in 2.9, the only way to adjust the setting of the video was over in here. This still holds true for still renders. This is where you would adjust all of that information right here. But now, without ever having to leave the video editor, I can do it all within inside here. So here's where I can set up the resolution. If I need a bigger size than 4K, I can definitely do that. Same with compression quality and frames per second. Keep in mind, the higher you go, the more increased render time that it's going to take. So I can hit export, and then from there I will see it render, and then I'll get a nice MP4 file that I can share. I can post on YouTube. I can distribute it all over the place. All right, so that was the video editor UI overhaul. So let's get out of that. I'm going to change this back to a daytime scene. So the last thing we're going to look at is the asset library. So again, let me split screen here. So in our asset library, there we go, it's loading up over here. All right, so Enscape comes with about close to 2,500 assets. Again, with 3.0, we introduced 333 new assets. And again, these are all broken out by categories. So say I want to look for some vegetation. I can scroll down the list here and check out all of the 514 different types of vegetation assets that we have. For users that have already been using Enscape, if you see that mine is reloading pretty fast, that's because there's this button down here for check offline Enscape assets. So what this is going to do essentially is this is going to download all the Enscape assets until it's about 3 gigs. So that'll cache it to your machine, that'll download them all to your machine. So instead of having the Enscape assets load from the cloud, these are going to be loading from your local machine. So you're going to get, so this I can scroll through all these without having to wait for a second, because I did this check offline Enscape assets here. So that's a helpful little tooltip. So let's just place an asset quick. So again, for our new users in the audience, I'm simply just going to click whatever asset I want, and then start placing assets here. Boom, boom. I can hit escape, and then I get a nice new Enscape asset here. So now real quick, because we're in Revit, there is a feature that is only specific to Revit. So we can see here, these look pretty triangulated versus a traditional Revit family. So if we're in plan view, level 1, so we can see how the Revit families are looking here. And again, these are going to carry all the BIM information still, whereas Enscape assets, they don't have the BIM information. So we can go over to furniture here. I'm going to click on a Revit family. So I see this one's called Seating Artemis. Okay, so I'm going to pick a chair that I really want. Let's do these ones. I'm going to do this nice accent chair. So if I click the 3 dots right here, I can hit this link Revit family to asset. And what this is going to do is this is going to pop up another window here. Now I'm going to search for my chair, Seating Artemis lounge chair. I'm going to click OK. So now watch what's going to happen. Again, for our new users in the audience, whatever changes I'm making to the Revit model, whether it's changes to the floor, the walls, or anything like that, materials, anything like that, it's going to be instantly updated over here in Enscape. So again, super powerful for project reviews, client reviews. If you're sitting with your customer and they don't like the way the carpet looks or the wall looks, you can change that instantaneously, update over here for them. So with the assets linking to the Revit families, you're still going to have all the BIM information scheduled correctly, and it's still going to show up in Revit just fine, but in Enscape, it's going to show up as a nice, high quality 3D asset. Okay. For some reason, if you don't see an asset that you like in the Enscape assets that come with it, you do have the option to create a custom asset. So this is where you can go to, say, TurboSquid, or if you have a 3D modeling team that uses like Blender, 3ds Max, any of those, you can create your own 3D models. And simply by just loading in the OBJ file, the FBX file, or the GLTF file, you can load these custom assets in here, and it functions the same way. So I can place asset on surface. Again, this still holds true for the ones. So I'm going to click a surface here. I'm going to click. Again, this was a custom asset I created. It's going to load up. I'm going to go to Enscape. And here's my custom asset. Lo and behold, that is a 3D scan of myself. So that is how you can create the custom assets. Again, that's just by clicking the plus button, and then you're going to be in a new window. And if you guys have used Enscape for SketchUp before, it's going to look the exact same as the material editor there. So I would simply import the geometry, and then the same material editor would pop up where I could add in the texture maps for that material, for that model, and for the scaling. I can adjust that accordingly. And then it would show up in my new assets. And the new ones I created would show up as it would have a tag that says new assets. All right, and that is Enscape 3.0, the new features where the buttons move to, and some cool little tips and tricks in there. So without further ado, Dan, I'll pass it back to you.
Yeah, thanks, Josh. That was a great little overview. Appreciate that.
You're welcome. Sorry about the crash. All right, so I will stop sharing. Here, I'll change the presenter back to you.
Great.
All right, there you go.
Thanks, Josh. I really appreciate that. For those of you who are new to Enscape, I know I was kind of surprised by the poll number. There were a number of new customers here. If you would like to take a deeper dive into Enscape and really kind of just explore how to set up scenes and how really to start from scratch, please give us a call, and we're more than happy to kind of set up that demonstration for you. For you existing Enscape customers, I hope you're able to see really the advantage that this new look and this new interface give to Enscape and the workflow. And as I said earlier, what's nice about the features in Enscape 3.0 is not only are they immediately beneficial to the day-to-day work of Enscape, but it really lies a foundation for future improvements. So it's a pretty monumental release for us, and one that we're really excited to share with you, and one that's getting a lot of good feedback from our customers. If you would like more information about Enscape, I'd really encourage you to go to the Enscape page on the DDS CAD website. There you'll find information about the new release. You'll also be able to download a free trial if you're interested in learning more about and trying it out for yourself. So with that, I'd like to kind of open it up to any questions that we might have had. Alan, do you know if there were any questions that came in during the presentation?
Yes, all right. So we did get a couple.
Good.
So first thing here, somebody was asking what licensing options exist.
That's a good one, Josh. I'll take this one. So
Okay.
Enscape comes in 3 different options. There's what we call fixed licensing and then floating licensing. So a fixed license, as you can imagine, as the name suggests, it's fixed to a machine. So one license, one machine. And then we have a floating option in which you can install Enscape on as many different machines as you need to, and then you can, that license then unlocks Enscape on that machine. So we have floating licenses options available on an annual subscription basis. So you buy 1 year. We have fixed annual licenses. So you can buy Enscape, one machine, one license for 1 year. And then we have monthly and a monthly fixed license option as well, which is great when you have a project. You want to maybe throw a few more people onto that project and you know it's going to be over in a short period of time. You can buy it for a few months and then it naturally expires at the end of the month. So those are the 3 major benefits of the licensing. It's also important to stress that the one license of Enscape can be used in all of the CAD programs. So you don't have to buy a Revit license and a Rhino license and a SketchUp license. The one license you buy can be installed in Revit, Rhino, SketchUp, Vectorworks, and ArchiCAD. So it provides a lot of flexibility for a firm in that you can use that one Revit, that one Enscape license throughout all of the design tools in the office. And that's a really nice advantage of the licensing as well.
That's great. All right, here was another one. And remember, guys, if anybody has any questions or anything like that, you can go ahead and write those in the chat or in the questions box, and we will get to those momentarily. Okay, so regarding assets, can you guys add more diversity for children and adults?
Great question. So yes, that is a constant topic that we're constantly updating with each release of Enscape here. So that is, again, definitely on our list of things to keep implementing and keep updating is the diversity of all the assets.
The other thing I just want to stress, kind of in regards to custom assets, which was new in the last version of Enscape, is that you can, if you have assets that you can find in 3D Warehouse or TurboSquid or other kind of common asset sites, we can now use those Enscapes, those assets in Enscape to create some diversity. Also on the technology front, we're evaluating kind of different ways we can parameterize objects. So we can have an object like a car and have it show up in multiple colors. So instead of having diversity in the sense that we have, more people, we could have maybe a more generic person or other object, and then create variations of that parametrically. So that's also something that we're looking to explore to create diversity and expand the asset library.
Absolutely. And actually kind of a related question here came in as well. Is there a way or method to request specific assets be added, such as more diverse people and things in that category?
Yes, there is. It's a great question. So you could submit them to support at enscape3d.com, and we'll get those into our feature request list or asset request list.
Okay, great. And then the next question, is there a material asset library?
Great question. So currently right now in Revit, all the materials are being derived from inside of Revit. So inside in Revit's material editor, that's where Enscape's taking them from. If you go onto our form, or if you go onto our website, let me get to it real quick, in our features, in our feature roadmap, let's get it pulled up here. There is a, let me get it here. There is a material library and a material editor for Revit planned for 3.1.
So 3.1 is scheduled for release July this year, and so we should expect to see that later this summer.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. Okay. Another question we had here. What VR headsets do you recommend?
That's a good one for you, Josh.
That's a great question. So the VR recommended headsets, you can also find a link to these on our knowledge base. So it's right now the HTC Vive, the Oculus Rift, the Samsung Odyssey, and the Windows Mixed Reality headset that we support. I personally have an Oculus. I personally have an Oculus Rift still, and I love it.
Hey, Josh, related to that, what about the system requirements for VR? Are they a little bit different than the base Enscape?
Great question, Dan. So for VR recommended requirements, we recommend at least a GPU with 8 gigs of RAM. So your 2070, your RTX 2070s, your 3000 series cards, your Quadro cards that have at least 8 gigs of RAM. That's what we'd like to see you get into for VR. Again, on our knowledge base, we do have a whole section based on system requirements. So our minimum system requirements, since Enscape is a GPU rendering engine and it's wholly dependent on the GPU, our minimum recommended specs for a GPU are 2 gigs of RAM. And then again, for VR, it's 8 gigs.
Okay, great. All right, I think that's it for the time being.
Good.
So let's actually, we wanted to go over to that next slide for us, if you could. And we're actually going to open one last poll as we get ready to sign off here. We're curious what you guys would like to see in our next webinar. We've got hopefully a bunch of webinars coming up here for you guys. But of these topics, what are some things that you'd like to see? So we'll give you guys a couple minutes here to go ahead and let you vote. And we really would appreciate, some good feedback on this so that we can hopefully give you what you'd like to see next. All right, we'll give this another 10 seconds here. Get those votes in, please. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and close this off now. And looks like materials may be the next topic here. We'll have to see what happens.
Oh, all right.
Yeah, that's a good one, materials. So yeah, we'll definitely set that up maybe for next month, and we can preview some of the technology that we have in the pipeline. That's good.
Absolutely.
My
All
personal
right.
favorite as well.
And so without any further ado here, we'll be signing off. Thank you guys all for joining us.
Thank you, Alan. Thank you, everyone.
Yeah, thank you, everybody.
And be on
Enjoy
the
the holiday.
be on the future for some future webcasts here as well from us. And as I mentioned earlier, please don't hesitate to contact us at 305-445-6480 or email us at info@ddscad.com if you've got any additional questions regarding features, training, support, pricing, anything like that we might be able to help with. Okay. All right. Have a good one, everyone.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.